Hey class, welcome back. Chapter 6, Section 2. In this section, we're looking at debating independence. Not all the colonists were ready to break from England, even though so many things had happened, like Lexington and Concord, like the Battle of Bunker Hill, on top, of course, of the Boston Massacre and all those acts and taxes already placed on the colonists. And so the colonists were broken up into two groups primarily, patriots and loyalists. Patriots were those people, those colonists who wanted to break from England. They were ready to declare independence. About 40 to 45% of all the colonists were patriots and wanted to break from England. But there was still a pretty significant group, about 15 to 20%, who considered themselves loyalists, and they wished to remain loyal to the king. And actually, about 100,000 of them are going to return to England because of the rift and the strife going on. Another 50,000 loyalists will actually fight in the war against the Patriots and the other colonists. These loyalists supplied the British Army with supplies and often even served as spies. A big reason why a lot of them remained loyalists were they saw the king as God's authority and believed it was wrong to rebel against him. So the colonists were broken up into those sections. You can see on the map different areas that were kind of loyalist strongholds compared to patriot strongholds. And of course, a lot more of the colonies were patriot strongholds, but we still had some areas in the south. See a bit of Vermont up there in the New Jersey area, and New York that tended to be a little more loyalists in nature. One man who tried to persuade a number of colonists to become patriots was a man named Thomas Paine. So many colonists were, of course, unsure of whether to remain loyal to England or not, that Paine wanted to try to convince the loyalists or convince those people who were neutral to become a patriot. And so he wrote a pamphlet called Common Sense. He says it was just common sense to break from Great Britain. He pointed out a few key things. One, he says Britain has become unfit to rule them. They have lost the privilege to rule them. Secondly, he says, the king has become a tyrant. His actions, he's not listening to his people anymore, and he's acting as a tyrant. And he says, why on earth are you going to allow this tiny nation, 3,000 miles away, separated by an entire ocean, rule this larger country on the other side of the globe? And then he kind of just says, boy, it is common sense to break from Great Britain. And his pamphlet was incredibly persuasive in pushing a lot of those folks who were neutral to finally becoming a patriot. And things in the colonies said in July of 1776, the Continental Congress continued to meet, continued to debate what to do. They even went so far to the Continental Congress was to create an American Navy, begin purchasing war supplies. They talked to France about possibly becoming their ally if it went to war. And all of the colonies, except for two of them, New York and Pennsylvania, were ready to declare independence. And finally, they got a resolution together. And this group of men, the Declaration Committee, headed by people like John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Richard Henry Lee, Benjamin Franklin, began to draft the Declaration of Independence, an official document separating us from the British. It was up in this house in the top middle there called Independence House, which is in downtown Philadelphia, where Thomas Jefferson resided while he was in the Continental Congress. It was in this building that he drafted the Declaration of Independence. And then, of course, in the bottom right-hand picture is inside Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence will finally get approved. And it was, out of that committee of men, it was primarily Thomas Jefferson, the young Virginian, just in his early 30s, who was going to draft the majority of the Declaration of Independence, which officially declares our independence from Great Britain on July 4th, 1776, which is why we celebrate Independence Day on July 4th. And it was at that point that we officially declared to the world that we were free. But of course, the British wouldn't stand for that, and war would break out before they'd possibly let the colonists go free.